Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Psychotic Nonconformist podcast. And I'm going to be the host, Douglas Johnson. And I'm glad you're here spending some time with me this morning to discuss this. It's an unusual day, an unusual time. It's been long in the works, though. I've been working on this project for the better part of the last 6 months to get to where we're at today. And it is something that's become very important to me. I've had to make some changes. We had some connectivity issues at the physical studio that we were going to do this episode from. But I thought, instead of postponing it, to just go ahead and proceed from what's going to be the mobile studio, because this is going to be a setup that is going to be used starting this fall when we hit the road and we start visiting some of the other jurisdictions that have the same issues that we have here in this area, and go meet with people one-on-one and do some interviews in that regard. So this is going to be more or less a mobile studio that I'll use for that. As far as my past goes, I originally I started out life in the construction business and building pulte homes. Actually, had a small group of carpenters that we just went around and contracted with pulte and did the rough framing on homes. Then I kind of bored of that because it was just a matter of flipping garages from one side of the house to the other, and you never even really looked at the blueprints after a while, and you were so accustomed to those type of homes that I decided to start doing more spec homes, which, for those of you that don't know the difference, production homes like pulte homes, I don't even know if Pulte's still in business at this point. They were a big housing development company back in the day, back in the 80s. And that's all they did. They built complete subdivisions and wouldn't venture off anything outside of the 5 or 6 type of houses that they were known to construct, whether it was a one-level ranch or a two-story colonial. Again, like I said, the only thing that ever really changed, different versions of homes, or what side of the house the garage went on. And so I switched into the spec homes, which put me into a whole different type of community for construction. Because at that point we were building, instead of the 1,500 to 2,200 square foot building, we were building, when I said building, we were doing the rough framing of homes that on average were 3,000 square feet. And then they, in some cases, went up to 10,000 square feet, where we had to use you have to have iron workers come in and put in the actual frame of the home using iron, and then we come in behind them and start doing the roughing. That was interesting. Did that for a few years, and then I got into the commercial work and started contracting with. I don't even think they're around anymore either. The Budgetel hotel chain. I was taking my guys to different states, wherever Budgetel would be building a new location, and we'd stay out on those locations for whatever time it took to build that particular location, and then move on to the next one. And I did that while I was still going to school, and which made it difficult when you started traveling like that, and they didn't have online schools like they did today, so that really put a kink in my ability to pursue my academic to get out of the construction. Because I knew I didn't want to do construction for the rest of my life. I ended up um, after getting past some business law and paralegal courses. I took a job as an entry level, very entry level, of a small law firm as a paralegal, and was in that occupation for just shy of 20 years. And it was an interesting 20 years. In the in that time frame, I worked directly for I think 5 different law firms in the Detroit metro area, and then there were some spots in between those firms where I was doing freelance paralegal work and just coming in on particular, usually appellate cases, because that's where I end up gaining more of my interest in that field, was doing the appellate work. So some firms would bring me in just to work on a particular appeal, and and then I'd stay on that case until the conclusion of that, and move on to the next. So it was an interesting career, but I seen the practice of law changed, and it that was kind of around the same time my late wife started getting sick and with various illnesses that ultimately ended up taking her life in the end. But that event there kind of put me in a lost position. I'm sure many of you can relate that what you feel when you lose someone special, lose someone that you really love very much, and you just it kind of as you reevaluate your entire existence, and that's when I got into the driving. I thought, well, I'm just gonna get my CDL and get on the road, and I'll figure things out later. I didn't really know where I wanted to go. Uh, it felt always awkward wherever I went in Michigan, because Gloria and I would travel a lot throughout Michigan. So it just seemed like after she was gone, everywhere I went, I was always reminded of different times or days that the two of us were at that place. And sometimes I'd find myself sitting in the same booths or tables in restaurants that we used to sit at. And it was a bittersweet feeling. You you enjoyed the reminder and the thought of what it used to be like being there with her, but then you also got a fresh feel for the pain of that loss. So that's what put me on the road. I thought, I didn't know where else I wanted to live, or where else I wanted to be, but I just wanted to get out and see the country from a different perspective, because I never really traveled the United States um, by car. We used to take summer trips to Florida as a kid, and then later on, Gloria and I we did some traveling in the South, Florida, the Carolinas, for short vacations. I never really experienced any of the western part of our country, and that's what I thought the trucking would do. It would put me out there and be able to see the country in not just fly over it. Like a lot of the times I was traveling, but see it from the ground and meet the local people one on one, and instead of just the passengers of the planes you're flying in. And it was an interesting occupation, but it's something now that I'm no longer doing that. I don't really miss it too much. I kind of like being and in an environment where you can eat healthier, just overall generally live healthier. But, my hats go off to all the drivers out there. It's a tough job. It's actually it's considered the last stats I've read by Forbes magazine. It's the sixth most dangerous job in the country. And having done it myself, I can clearly see why. You drive in all kinds of weather conditions, and sometimes driving some blizzards through the Rocky Mountains, and you don't have the luxury of being able to pull over and just finish your run tomorrow. You have to. In some cases, you're delivering medications. You're delivering other high priority loads that, if they're not there on time, you can literally end up shutting down production plants. And so you just always got to keep the wheels spinning, and some of those were pretty challenging. It's like I said, it's a challenging job, but what a very unnecessary job. We without our truckers out there, we wouldn't have anything. They they keep us moving. No matter what field we are. Whether we work in the medical field, we work in retail, just or other regular accounting office jobs. It, it, the wheels of trucks affect every aspect of our lives. Everything in your house most likely was brought to you in some form or fashion via truck, and hopefully that occupation remains stable for the 3 million plus drivers that we have in this country. They're facing some challenges of their own in that industry with the, the increase in automation, and that's gonna, if it gets released nationwide as much as they'd like to see it be released, it's gonna put a lot of drivers out of a job, and that's unfortunate because it's a very good paying job. So hopefully automation is something that happens very slowly, if ever at all. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure many of the drivers share that same belief. I think they aren't big fans of the automation themselves. But anyway, the when I got sick in 2020, which brings me to this organization, I had to take another we go through life many times having to really take a good look at what it is that we're going to do. Um, you know, it, and evaluate what's important to us now. Because that changes as we get older. The things that are important to us change as well. And when I was down with this lung infection, when I first started being treated at Mayo Clinic, the that literally had me down. It just there were some days it was so bad, I couldn't walk. My balance was so bad. I just stayed in bed. Mayo ordered a power chair to help with that. vision was really bad. It, it's amazing what a little bug in your lung, how many areas of your body it can affect. But it was a hell of a learning experience to learn about all these different viruses that are out there, other than COVID, that can really alter your life in a big way. And it so that during that period where I was down, they had to put a thick line in my arm, and that was in there for a while I did these liquid antibiotic infusions 3 times a week. In addition to all the oral meds that they had me on during that period, and that's when I thought about the direction of. I had to, on one hand, I had to balance. What if things don't improve? What if I can't do the physical work that I used to be able to do that I haven't been able to do because this infection. And then I also had to consider that the the multiple sclerosis component of my life. I was diagnosed with back in 2002, so it's been a long time. But that flared up, and that was always stable, more or less, until the lung infection set in. And the lung infections seemed to have pissed off the MS to a point where that was probably what was responsible for my mobility issues back in 2020 and 2021. So I was looking at things to what I'm going to be able to do, even in the worst case scenario, if I end up in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and I'm going to have limited use of different aspects of different components that we're traditionally just so used to using. And, and I thought, this is whatever I'm going to do is going to have to be more administrative and more stationary, which then had me look at my legal experience and both sides of the fence, both good and bad. Because I've had my other than being a paralegal, I've had my fair share of run-ins with the law on the other side, and it's over the years. So I have a very diverse background in the legal field because I've dealt with it from both ends, like so many probably of you have. The last stats I've seen on that, 1 in 6 Americans have a addiction for something, and those are high numbers. And when I seen those stats, I was thinking that's it. But at the same time, I was wondering what I was going to call this company, and in my new pursuit, and and then I was just looking at domain names, and it's something that just when I thought 1 in 6 is convicted of something, I Googled, did some Googling, I'm looking at names, and I find one that's called felonsunited.com. And it was for sale. It wasn't one that you could just pick up at GoDaddy, for their normal price of just any generic domain name. You actually that domain name is quite expensive. I think I ended up paying about $1,600 for that domain name, and then I started the process of uh, making it formal in a in a corporate way, and I knew it was going to be a nonprofit entity, so I filed the necessary paperwork with the state to form its existence as a nonprofit organization. And then I did the paperwork with the federal government to get what it has now as a 501c4 designation. And the and it's most likely going to also apply for the 501c3 designation as well. That gets into a complicated scenario in the law, because the difference between the C3 and the C4 is the C3 is typically what your United Ways and Salvation Armies and Goodwills and other churches. A lot of those organizations are C3s, and they're tax exempt, and then the contributions to them are tax exempt on a C, but they're limited as far as what they can be actively involved in. They have to be more of a charitable organization with limited circumstances, the ability to influence legislation, participate in campaigning for any particular candidates. Uh, it it That's the trade-off on the C3 versus the C4. The C4 allows that nonprofit organization to be more engaged in political activities, um, campaigning for candidates, and it reaps the benefit of being a tax exempt organization, but unfortunately, from the donor's perspective, from the donor side of things, it doesn't become a tax exempt contribution for them. Um, so, in that scenario, that's where it comes um, most likely the case where Felons United Inc. will also apply and for recognition by the IRS. Also, a organization. I would have to limit. That's where the complications come in. You have to limit, um, the C4 operations of Felons United would have to be separate from the C3 types of activities, and the contributions would have to be allocated such, because C4 obviously collect charitable collect contributions for donors, and they can apply for grants and they can do all the things that a C3 does. It's just the tax exempt part for the donors is the main difference, and then of course the activities those two entities can involve. So then you have to be able to, if a donor contributes to what would be considered by the IRS as a political function, then that donor cannot reap the benefit of the tax deduction, although the organization can. So donations at that point would need to be really just it's not a big process on the donation side. You would just have to specify where you want to see those donations go. You want to see them go towards the, the political activism that we get involved in, or do you want us to go towards the charitable projects that I expect to become involved in? So, and that's still all in the makings. This, you know, you can't set these things up. Like I said, I've been working on this now for, yeah, I bought that domain in 2020, late 2020, and it, the paperwork with any agencies that you have to deal with is very, and there's a lot of deadlines on the organization's part. But then when it comes to getting information back from whatever agency that you had to supply. There never seems to be a deadline for them to get back to you. So um, there's never, you never know how long that process is going to take. But um, the for the time being, I know that we have the general election, next general election coming up here in 2024, and it's like I've said before, it's it's going to be a very important election, um, and you hear that out every 4 years. Everybody's saying, "Oh, I think I've even said it myself. How catastrophic it's going to be if one side or the other doesn't win." But this one, with all the chaos that's going around overseas and even within our own borders, it I think it really is going to be a very pivotal general election this time around. It's going to be important that we get it right. We we need to really relook at the type of people we put in office. We keep thinking we're sending someone that's better than the previous one, and then they get there and they end up becoming the same type of person that we were trying to replace in the first place. We got to get out of that cycle. And and we need to figure out how to do that in short order, because, like I said, the next general election is next year, and then next year comes pretty quick. And it's just like I'm going to try to keep this podcast down to an hour, and these weekly episodes to an hour, and that's tough. It's tough to do. You you get going on a topic, and some of these topics that we want to discuss, or that need to be discussed, um, can take more than an hour. You know, I'm sure producers of these types of episodes that are larger, executive producers, they call them. They, they really fine tune those segments to be to fit within the time periods that they have. But when you're dealing with chaos that we have, it's kind of difficult to do that, because we can't do things like we did in the past, and follow what what was the traditional norm. Because there is no such thing as a norm anymore. We need to collectively find out what our new norm is going to be after the next general election, because that the next general election is going to become our most likely new permanent norm, new norm. And some of us are going to like it, some of us are not. But that's the reality of it, and it's critical. We have a lot of adversaries out there that don't like us, and they see this is a very unique opportunity for them to create the damage that they've been wanting to create for us for a long time. We're not a very well liked country. They they like our money, they like our aid, but they don't like our way of life. They don't like our freedoms. Not their leaders anyway. Their people probably do, a good portion of them, but their leadership doesn't. They like being dictators, Victorians. They like being the other types of governments that are out there that are far more oppressive than what ours was set up to be. Yeah. How ours was set up to be the least oppressive is now turned into a pretty oppressive situation. And that's one of the things that the problem for us, and something that we need to change. But I wanted to talk more about thinking. I can get on this and I can end up being working. I could be here all afternoon talking about this, but the housing situation. When I was driving over the road, I've been to those places that many of you only see on TV or on sort of the social media platforms, where the homeless people are living in tents on the sidewalk in Portland, and I've delivered to Portland, I've picked up in Portland, I've delivered in Seattle, I've picked up in Seattle. I've been to see them. I've been all up and down the West Coast, and the homelessness is it's amazing. And, uh, it, but it's not there. It's not just in the East Coast either. New York and other areas along the eastern border, they have a major homeless problem. And Detroit, Cleveland, so they're not on the coast. They're far away from any of our coast. They've always had a homeless problem. And in fact, if you look at some of my earlier videos on YouTube, there's one that I did that's on YouTube now that I shot that in front of two abandoned homes in an area that was just 6 or 7 blocks from where I grew up in Detroit. And back when I was running for Detroit City Council, and that video was done to in 2008, wanting to deal with the homeless problem, because uh, it was just so out of hand. You thought it was out of control in 2008, and that's when I shot that video talking about it. And here we are in 2023, and instead of it being improved, it's gotten actually worse. And it's not that government hasn't spent money on it. I mean, they spend a lot of money on it, but they don't make any real progress on fixing it. Um, I getting back to the West Coast. I not too long ago read a an article about Governor Newsom's recent project involving homeless housing, and the project that he rolled out. Well, actually, what made the news was how the project, which was already expensive, was experiencing delays and cost overruns. And the they didn't give you a, a number on what it was going to cost per unit as a result of the overruns. But what they did do, they outlined what the units were costing under if things would have went smooth without any more delays or overruns. And it was his project was costing $350,000 per unit. And when I say per unit, it's that one unit would have accommodated getting one person off the street or a family of up to four off the street. It would have been the same cost. And it left me after I'm reading this article, I'm thinking, damn, for $350,000, I could buy some property, build a single family home with an attached garage, a yard, and maybe even squeeze in a built-in swimming pool, and most likely house more than four people comfortably. And it just so it really, government tries to fix these problems, or at least they say they do, but uh, they they never get it done, and there's better ways. And so as I'm thinking about what projects for this organization to get involved in, I thought the starting point is housing, because without housing, people have a very difficult and expensive life. Um, if you're living in the, I received an email from somebody, text message from somebody last week that a single mom with 3 kids, and she's living out in she's living in her car out in Nevada in the desert, and I can't imagine. I don't. It doesn't matter, what happened to put her in that position. The only thing that matters is that she and 3 of her children are in that position, and there's no meaningful help to get her out of that scenario without a long wait. When it comes when we're talking about Section 8 vouchers or choice vouchers or the other all these other programs that our government rolls out, none of them are fast. Now they're starting to use the word rapid transition housing programs, but I don't know how much more rapid that is. Um, I'm sure it still bogs that individual down with a lot of paper, looking for paperwork and filling out forms and a lot of waiting. In the process, while they're waiting, they're stuck living in shelters and or the back of the cars or RVs or in tents in the woods. It's unfortunate that you know that we have shelters that are so full in some of these major cities, like even Grand Rapids. They were doing it. They were so full that they were actually handing out tents for people to go find a spot in a wooded area and call that home for the night. And there was another one up in a Goodwill up in the Traverse City area that was doing the same thing. They were giving out tents and sleeping bags because they couldn't. Their capacity was already exceeded, and they the best they could do is give somebody a tent, sleeping bag, and hope that they can find a safe place in the wintertime, stay warm, and stay alive till the next day. And that's not a solution to our homeless problem. So these shelters, although they fit up, they fill an important need. I mean, we need to have them, but those are very short-term fixes to a very chronic problem, and we need to get more projects online that are going to actually provide meaningful assistance in terms of providing actual housing, permanent housing, where they don't have to get thrown out from the shelter every day and have to carry around their bags and suitcases of all the what's left of their life all day long as they because they're banned from re-entering the shelter during the daytime because they're supposed to be out working or looking for work while they drag around all their stuff and and then be back by a certain time or else they're not going to be able to get back into the shelter. Uh, and then some of those places, if they didn't get back at an early enough time, they because they have to wait in line to get checked in, they they may not have a bed that night, so they may end up having to take all their personal belongings and sleep on sidewalks, parks, or in very unsafe and unhealthy environments. So having known all this and seen all this, I'm thinking, and then there was this newfound interest in mini homes, and I thought, this 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 is the answer. It's not the only answer, but it'd be a good start. So I think from where I'm at, I need. I think I want to focus on aside from some advocacy stuff I'm working on that we'll talk about later on, but in other episodes, because I'm doing some stuff in the the legal side of things that will hopefully help the efforts of the mini house campus that project that I want to pursue. But I'm still doing a lot of paperwork. There's still a lot to be done at the administrative level that really benefits nobody. It's just time consuming and costly, and paying fees and maintaining service providers, monthly subscriptions, and it's just nothing is free. You get a lot of free trials and things, but on a long-term basis, you end up having to need a lot of cash for this. And I've spent a lot of cash. So far, there's been no donors. I have no angels in the back scene funding anything. It's just right now with I'm it, and my two employees are uh, an English cream golden retriever and an American tan golden retriever. Those are my two employees. Uh, the only real the only thing they're really good at is shredding documents. So, so I don't think I'll have to worry about equipping any locations I'm at with any type of paper shredders. They got that under control. They can both do government shreds pretty well. Um, and when it comes to getting back to the organizational structure of the nonprofit, it's set up with the state, it's set up with the federal government, state compliant. It that's kind of an oxymoron in terms of um, being compliant with the government, but then also calling yourself a psychotic nonconformist. Huh, you know, because there's a lot of people out there that they don't want to be compliant with any government. They think that government is just um, they have no use for the government at all. Um, but I'm not one of them. I believe that there are certain regulations that are necessary. Law enforcement is necessary. We can't run around chanting to defund the police. Um, you think things are chaotic now. If we didn't have the men in blue out there on a daily basis doing their jobs, things would be much more chaotic here. So defunding the police is not uh, an option, not for me anyway. I don't expect to change anybody's minds that's really hell bent on saying taking that position. But I do believe that some need to be retrained. I do believe we need to have some type of change in policies on some of the things that they're able to do and the way they handle certain situations. Um, I don't believe that every encounter with an armed individual needs to be riddled with 5 to 30 bullets to put them down. I think every time that a law enforcement fires their weapon, it doesn't necessarily have to be fired in a shoot mindset. I think there's other ways to subdue somebody that poses that type of threat. So we don't need to go around executing people just because of a dangerous situation that could otherwise be maybe handled differently. But there's areas that, but that's more of a legislative and that's the 501c3 C4 component aspect of things. That's not there's nothing charitable about that. Participating in any type of changes in that area, that would be the function on the C4 side. Right now, I want to focus on the C3 side, which is still under application with the IRS. That's a much more likely application than the C board. But it the starting point is getting a mini house subdivision going. Because mini housing, there's a photo of one on I put on the website yesterday that that shows a mini house with a gated front yard. Looks like more like a country setting, and that type of all these little mini homes they shouldn't have to be able to be set up on wheels and be having to be moved around constantly. And people should be able to live in those type of structures in safe areas with all the other amenities that other homes have that are typically 1,000, 2,000, or up to 10,000 square feet, but without the size. Because without that added, this would be helpful to not only the low-income families out there and the homeless, but also would be helpful to the retirees who are empty nesters. They don't need the big homes that they used to have. I've known some seniors that really struggled to pay. Their houses were long paid off. Their spouses were passed away, so it was just them living on their Social Security benefits, and they lived in fear of losing their home every day because they didn't know if they were going to be able to pay the property taxes on it. In some jurisdictions, they stopped taxing seniors at a certain age, and in terms of property taxes, and some don't. And the ones that don't, those jurisdictions are a big struggle for those seniors. Um, and I remember that very same person, her home was heated with fuel oil. So every year she had to have her tanks filled. I think she had to have two fills a year. She was able to make her tanks go twice, only be filled twice a year. And she scrambled to come up with the money to do that. And that was her, not only her source of heat, but it was her method of heating her water, to take showers and wash dishes and cook, to operate the gas powered stove. So, um, but when you look at that scenario, and then you start thinking about these mini homes, it would be so much cheaper for someone like, well, her name was Charlotte. I'll never forget Charlotte. Um, she's the one that I've been talking about in the last few minutes. Um, she would have loved living in one of those mini homes if she was still with us today. She passed away years ago, but um, and there are many like her. There's so many others, and you don't have to be a senior to benefit from the smaller home. Charlotte, she never left home much. She went to the grocery store, doctor's appointments, and then the rest of the time she sat on her porch and or stayed in the living room watching The Love Boat and Love Connection. She she was a Love Connection addict, and a big Chuck Willoughby fan. So I uh, I I don't think about her often, but when I do, she was a funny lady. She still gives me a smile when I think about it. But the mini housing is a great start, and I think it's a great first project because uh, not just to accommodate the seniors like I've been speaking for in the last few minutes, but the uh, people coming out of prison, people newly divorced, that people that were abandoned by their spouse and now have they can't afford the place, and because they were abandoned by their spouse, so the income go, and now they find themselves living in a situation that they can't afford to stay in. So the mini house campus project that I have in mind um, will benefit a lot of different people, and of course, it will definitely benefit that poor soul that's stuck living in the woods in the middle of January or February, um, or underneath an overpass. Um, it it's a win-win for a lot of people. I fully expect, after finding property, I think the biggest challenge is not going to be to fund the project. I think it's going to be more of a challenge um, to get the the government's agencies involved in the communities that the property ends up being located in to sign on. Because it only takes one person from one department, because they normally typically when they go through the permit process of developing, whether it's a single family home or more so when you're suggesting building a subdivision. Um, so many people are involved, and it just takes one to put a kink in the project to the point where it's either significantly delayed, just because of a paper chase, or or you find yourself in a need to where you have to end up going to court and challenging zoning board denials or zoning variance requests or denials. There's so many things that you can bumps in the road that you can run into developing those type of projects, more so than a single family home. But a lot of this still needs to be put on hold as far as moving forward with anything in terms of choosing initial location until until the nonprofit organization is fully functional. Because right now I'm considered I'm its director only because I'm the incorporator of, of the nonprofit. But under law, I'm required as an incorporator and being the sole director. It's my responsibility now to put together a board of directors, and that's where I'm at. That's the stage of this phase I'm in. I've done a lot of the administrative stuff to become an entity and be recognized as that entity and get its online presence up as we're here today, and get studios set up and get equipment, and all that stuff took time and money. That has always been a challenge, but it now I'm shifting to the part where I'm looking for a solid board of directors that could share. You don't have to have an identical mindset to mine, because diversity is good. Diversity of thought and ideas is essential for a project to be successful. So I I welcome diversity. It makes me even think about my late wife. She was a Pentecostal minister, and when we were before we got married, and we were just still in the dating phase, her friends thought she was nuts for dating me, and my friends thought I was nuts for dating her. They thought we were like oil and water. What are you, someone that's working in the legal field, working in a profession that traditionally lies for a living, um, dealing with a woman that loves Jesus more than she'll ever love you, and 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 people just look, and both sides of that camp looked at us that way. But as we dated, we started playing croquet together, and we went to mini putt golf courses, and we spent weekends up in Frankenmuth. And the more we did together, the more we actually seemed we had a lot in common, um, and it just worked. You know, we for me, I don't think she would say the same. I don't think she would say that I was her balance. She was already balanced. She was more of a balance for me, you know, to keep me in check as far as remembering about humanity. Because in the legal field, in the legal world, you can easily get lost and you lose humanity. You know, you become so desensitized to people's problems because you see so much of it, and it just it no longer becomes a very personal thing. It's just it becomes a process to fix the problem, but in a different way than than Gloria would fix the problem. And anyway, I'm getting close to running up. I think I'm coming close to the hour that I was trying to keep this at. But this is still a test run for me, especially now doing this from inside what's going to become the mobile studio. Um, and because I expect to be doing some trips to Washington and making some noise there. You know, Gloria she used to always say that I was the master of chaos when it came to court. And I'll post some documents, you know, and over the next few weeks, the site, I'm still getting the site complete, but I'll, I've got transcripts that I'm sure you'll find interesting to read of comments that some judges made about my legal abilities or some other attorneys made in an open court environment that will surprise you in a good way. And hopefully even give you confidence in believing that I can face the challenges that we're going to face pursuing the projects that we're going to pursue. I'm not definitely no stranger to adversity. Um, I still believe in trying to work things out peacefully with people. But at the end of the day, push comes to shove. Huh? Um, I have no trouble going head to head with you in the court of law. It's and I don't care who you are. You know, it's whether a thug mayor or in charge of a three-letter acronym agency that routinely assassinates people. You know, I'm not going to bow down on issues that are important to the organization or me or the people that we're trying to help because of some type of intimidation tactics by the other side, by our adversaries. Because we're going to have adversaries. Um, so, with that said, I hope this gives you a little background on what I wanted to cover the name of uh, the podcast, but that can probably add another 20 minutes. And I know it's going to be a nice day in a lot of areas. And probably if you're holding off on getting started on those days, I don't want to tie you up anymore. You know, it is a Saturday, and it's getting to be that time of the day where a lot of people are hitting the lakes, beaches, going out and having some fun. Trying to anyway. It's a challenge these days with the chaos that seems to be going around everywhere. But it I'll I'll have more information in the self-help section in the there's probably going to be a document section too, because some of the things that the advocacy work that I'm engaging in now is already starting to create a paper trail, and I want to keep that as transparent as possible. I'll be uploading those things. I'm probably going to create a separate link for that within that site, and um, and then the self-help site will provide you with information that of things and programs and services that you can hopefully utilize now to help you with whatever situation that you need help with now. Um, and and then of course, there's going to be well, that'll probably fall into the advocacy link where I'm going to start uploading documents involving the tobacco litigation and some other things that are already in the works. So I just haven't had a chance to. When you're one man, two dog operation at this point, and then you got to squeeze that in. You got to do all that in between medical appointments. Your days go quick, and there just never seems to be enough time to get as much done in a day that you'd like to. So with that said, I I hope that none of you had trouble viewing this. Like I said, this is again a test run from a different spot, and I'm still learning this system. On my end, it seems pretty simple, but until I get some feedback from the viewers, I don't know how simple it really is. We'll see. I don't know what kind of asses you guys have had at your end to even log in to view this. I'm sure over the next few days I'll get some feedback from some of you. But with that said, my four-legged kids seem to be getting rambunctious out there. So plus they're waiting for breakfast. So I'm going to close this for today. And I have a pretty open week this week. So if you want to reach out and discuss anything, if you're interested in being considered for a board member, I am going to put up some applications for working for the organization either remotely or at the physical spots as a volunteer. Or if you want to be considered for a board position, I'll have an application put up on the site for that as well this week, because I need to start getting that. I don't want to be the only one making the decisions on how we're going to proceed forward with even housing, the mini housing on our campus, because I would value opinions from other people when it comes to picking a location, and when a location is found, if it's a good location, if everyone agrees it's a good location, is it worth fighting for? If there needs to be a fight, that's more of a function of a full board and not just one person. Like I said, I'm the director right now. That doesn't mean I'm going to remain the director. I could, I could, I could end up um, putting together a board of directors that that basically cuts my nuts off, and ends up, really downsizing how much control I have over the organization. I don't know, it's, but that's all that's how democracy works. We're supposed to share uh, the power. We're supposed to share the functions of deciding what needs to be done and how those things should be done in a way that many people participate. and it shouldn't be always just left up to one individual. So I don't want to just take this too much further on my own without having others involved um, to share what they feel is important, or their opinion is as far as what direction they feel it should go, what locations we should be, what jurisdictions we should be considering for the first campus, uh, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to close. I think I went over the hour by 8 minutes. I got a clock down here, so that's why I want to keep an eye on it. And I'll just close with I hope you have a fun weekend. If you're off, if you have to work, well, I understand. And I'll be working myself. I don't plan on doing any fun this weekend. I'll be doing a lot of bid work over the weekend, and most likely working on the website. And then I have some litigation documents that need to be ready for Monday, Tuesday latest. So I've got a busy weekend myself. So the only fun I'm going to have is taking my four-legged kids for a walk. That seems to be the only peace I have these days. Well, I got to correct myself. I don't take them for a walk. They take me for a walk. I think they both think I'm a sled, but that's, I guess, I've gotten so used to it that I just consider that cardio. That's my cardio for the day. Taking them out a few times a day for a walk, that gets my heart going, and that gives me the cardio exercise I need for the day. So again, have a weekend, have a blessed weekend, and I hope you subscribe, and I hope you start going. And if you, I would really appreciate it if you took the time to go to the social media sites and do the follow and like things, because I'm not looking for fame and fortune. And I got uh, some of the coffee mugs in. This is the black one. I prefer the white one. The logo stands out a little bit better. But the caps came in. I like these caps. I don't see any need to change that. Um, but I'm adding some other things. I'm doing. There's some bandanas coming in for both two and four-legged, and then there's some other some merch. But uh, trust me, I don't expect in any way, shape, or form to make any money. This stuff, by the time you end up paying for it and the cost of shipping these items on a print-on-demand basis, there really isn't any money to be made. It's just a way of getting our movement out, um, getting it seen. That's where the value of hoping that more people take advantage of making the purchases of these items and utilizing them, or just stick them in a cupboard somewhere. Wear those bandanas, take those coffee mugs to the office with you to work. Take those or other events that you go to. Wear those shirts, wear those jackets. Put those things on so it gets the name of the podcast out, so we can build a bit bigger audience to to educate more people and get more people involved, because this isn't going to be one project that's going to fix everything. It's going to require the first project to be duplicated in many, 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 many jurisdictions. It's in order to eliminate this, and we can eliminate it. It's just so far, it doesn't look like leadership is really serious about ending it. They just they want to look like they're spending money on it and trying, and that They're good at doing that. They're good at spending money, but they're not good at fixing things. Um, I still remember the days when they were spending um, $500 on a toilet seat. So it just it's not. They're good at some things, but they're not too good at many others. And dealing with homelessness and trying to find solutions to providing affordable housing for others that aren't homeless but can't afford with the apartment or condo or whatever it is that they're living in now. And they're looking for options. The mini house campus is a great option for a lot of people in a lot of different walks of life with a lot of different types of backgrounds. And those could all be set up in a different way, in a different formula. Um, but again, that's where a board of directors it becomes imperative. I need to have other people to bounce ideas with and talk to, other than just chatting with other people on social media. But hit the likes, uh, the follows, so that way I can, like right now, I can't really do live on YouTube until I reach the threshold of enough followers on YouTube. So if I can get more followers on the YouTube channel, then that means podcasts can get out to more people on that platform, and the more people are engaged, the better it is to get these projects that are moving along faster. So, well, thank you for taking the time to spend with me this morning, and well, I hope you got something out of this today. Have a blessed week.